The technology folks and the designers and the programmers, they design these apps for the instant stimulation to release dopamine and to get that kind of instant gratification. And so really we see the screen time and the habits and the addiction of the screen time because of the growing influence and power of social media and artificial intelligence. So many opportunities with AI, but so many potential drawbacks as well. And again, it's really becoming incumbent upon schools to find some way to educate students on what the pitfalls are, but also how to harness it for improved quality of life and enhanced education.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast, your trusted source for real-world tactics that keep students safe and help them to shine online. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. Each week, I sit down with K-12 superintendents, district leaders, and community voices who are shaping digital safety. We discuss wins, struggles, and strategies used to guide students so they can be safe and successful online.
My name is Dan Hornick, and I'm the proud superintendent of Orange County Public Schools in Orange, Virginia. We are in Central Virginia, situated between the Fredericksburg and the Charlottesville areas. We have a little over 5,000 students in 9 schools, pre-K through 12.
Superintendent, it's so great to have you here. I want to give you a little fun pop quiz I give to every superintendent, and every one of them seems to light up, and I think you'll be the same. I want to ask you, what type of teacher or educator did you start out as in the beginning of your career?
Absolutely. I was a high school social studies teacher. And what's particularly interesting is just today before this podcast, I was at the doctor's office for one of my checkups, and the doctor was one of my former high school students in advanced placement world history. And so it was absolutely incredible to see the next generation. And he remembered me, and that just it really makes an impact. But I loved every minute of teaching world history and social studies at the high school level.
And that's why we do what we do. You've impacted somebody, and that student who's now your doctor probably recognized you, and you guys had a great chat, right?
That is correct. He just talked about how much he still remembered the course and the things that he learned, and just it was heartwarming, and it's a very great reminder of why we do what we do.
Exactly. That's a wonderful story. For all of our audience, you know that Smart Social's here to keep kiddos safe online and in person so they can be successful someday. Just like the doctor of the superintendent here, they can navigate the digital world. They can be resilient, successful, amazing, and we can all be so proud of them. Now, Superintendent, after 240 plus superintendent conversations with your peers nationwide on this podcast in 43 plus states, we've heard some consistent trends, and I want to get your feedback on this. That's what this whole conversation is about. Learning from you. For all of our audience members, you know that I'll be taking copious notes. If you see me looking down, I'll have a pen. I'll be learning from the real expert here as we fight to try and protect your kids online nationwide from all these devices. Everybody says, Josh, my community is a little different. You don't understand. I agree, but every kid seems to be begging for one of these devices. For our audience that's listening, it's an iPhone or an Android. And if they already have one, they're begging for Fortnite, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, or any of the other apps that are so addictive in nature. So let's dive on in. Speaking of addictive in nature, here's the challenges we're hearing in our conversations for the 25-26 school year. After these discussions nationwide, we're hearing superintendents say, Josh, hidden direct messages are rough. Dangerous TikTok challenges really hit us in some years. Group text messages are difficult. Students are chatting with unknown people. Inappropriate content seems to have an off-campus start, but then it becomes our problem on Monday morning on campus or vice versa. And then I hear from superintendents, hey, Josh, screen time and phone addiction is the biggest one. If we could fix that, then a lot of these other ones would melt away. Superintendent, please give us your advice. What trends are you seeing? And are there any that I'm missing from this slide?
I really don't think there's any you're missing here, Josh. The one that sticks out to me, in particular from my time as a high school principal, and this is going back a few years where we talk about the dangerous TikTok challenges. And I remember the stuff with devious licks, if you remember that, and it encouraged destruction of restrooms and other things that were going on in schools. And I remember thinking at the time how incredible that the power of technology and the power of these social media platforms and how students can get so addicted and so engrossed in that device and in that particular social media app that it actually leads them probably to do things that would otherwise have been an out-of-body experience for them. We're especially concerned with hidden direct messages and in particular with those direct messages, who the individuals are on the other side of the screen. And, in particular, we're worried about human trafficking as well, and how a lot of those inappropriate relationships, human trafficking problems can come to fruition simply by the use of direct messages and other hidden ways that children are communicating with other individuals without their parents or guardians even knowing about it. So we face many of these same challenges here in rural Virginia. And I suspect, and of course, I know from watching many of your podcasts, regardless of where the folks on your podcast come from, they articulate many of these same problems. So this is clearly an epidemic, and it is problematic across the country, across the world, and we are no stranger to them. We see them. Most of our bullying issues, most of our things that come up that lead to some type of confrontation or altercation at a building, most of the time don't actually start in the school. They come to us and they matriculate from the outside, and oftentimes it comes from social media, direct message, group message type engagements, and it's kind of easy to be tough, like on the screen, and then the problems enter the school, and then you have individuals that are now seeing one another for the first time since these messages or these conversations have been exchanged, and it leads to problems in the school. And so we definitely aren't immune to these issues, and I would say 100% in Orange County Public Schools, these 6 that you have listed here, very much on our forefront and very much items and issues that we are constantly working to address with our students and with our community.
Yeah. Such great tips, but also such great vulnerability. To our audience listening right now, the superintendent brought up 2 really important things. Number 1, devious licks. We're going to explain to you in the middle of this episode what that is. I'll show you a resource. But Josh, that was a couple years ago. Yes, but it resurges every couple years. So we'll show you how to figure out what it is. We got a free resource for all of our audience members. Also, human trafficking, huge thing. It's sextortion, human trafficking. And also, we're going to show you an amazing resource on Smart Social that's huge that parents, you can get for free in the middle of the episode, so stay tuned. Okay, Superintendent, I want to ask you the next question. Some leaders nationwide, some of your peers have mentioned that certain social media trends have caught them off guard or been a surprise. I mean, everything tech is a surprise. Let's be honest. For all of our audience, superintendents and district leaders in your schools, they love you, and they are working so hard to protect your kids and to build resilient kids in the future and to let them learn in the classroom. But this tech stuff, it's hard for any of us, let alone me. All I do is interview people nationwide. It's a lot. So be easy on your schools because they do love you and they're doing their best. Superintendent, what kinds of social media issues tend to challenge your staff when it comes to student tech use?
Well, this is a great question, Josh. I'm going to start just kind of framing it broadly. I think one of the biggest challenges that we face in education is that we cannot pretend that the devices and the apps don't exist. We can't pretend that artificial intelligence doesn't exist. And so we really aren't at a place in education where full bans are just, thinking that students aren't going to have to at some point or aren't already engaging with these items. And so it really puts a lot of onus and a lot of responsibility on us to do everything we can to teach appropriate behaviors. And some folks use digital citizenship to coin the term as to what you're trying to teach students. And so I think one of the most important issues that we tackle in a school is figuring out how the balance of showing students how to harness the power of technology appropriately in a safe environment and things that are going to help move them forward and improve their quality of life, improve their education, while also acknowledging where some of the pitfalls are. And I think that in particular with artificial intelligence. So when we look at some of the social media and screen time issues, the challenges, number one, the creativity of the students, how incredibly savvy they are at being able to do different things, whether it's having, 2 different apps on the phone that are both alarm apps or whatever. And one is used to hide some direct messages or other things that might be more nefarious or things that, they might be trying to hide from their parents. And just on the surface level, a parent looking at a screen or a device might not even necessarily recognize. So I think that student creativity and having apps that appear that they're being used for something different than what they're actually being used for. Of course, we talked already about the trends and the challenges on TikTok and other things, whether it's devious licks or some of the other things that have come about. And overall, really the intense almost addiction of the screen time, where it's It's very difficult for many students to even part ways with a device because it's almost become, they've grown up with it. They're, of course, digital natives to the nth degree. And so those challenges with the creativity, the constant teachers kind of really trying to compete against almost that real-time feedback, that constant entertainment that you get from social media, from scrolling on your phone. Those are really pretty significant challenges that we see in schools and that our teachers are facing every day. And it's competing, right? Because our teachers are trying to keep the students engaged and trying to keep them focused on the task at hand. And it's kind of this competing interest with, I wonder what's kind of happening in this digital world versus what's happening here in, the four walls of this particular classroom on any given school day.
Yeah, such great tips. For our audience, the superintendent just brought up some really neat stuff. The calculator app towards the end of this program, I'm going to show you a free resource for that. It's one of those hidden apps that really what I'm hearing is untapped creativity, the entrepreneurial thing that the kids can do, which I love that you brought that up. Kids are super creative about being clever. How do we tap into that to use it for good? I love that as well. I think we're going to bring that up in at the end with some dialogue starters. Superintendent, in conversations with your staff, what do you hear them say is the hardest to keep up with? Is it social media shifts, AI, or is it student screen time habits, or a combination of any of these?
Yeah, this is another great question, Josh. I'm going to lean to the answer is truly all three, but I believe it starts with the last one that you've listed here, the screen time habits, because I think the screen time habits come about because of the shifts and how much they get engrossed with social media, as well as just the growing power of artificial intelligence and what can be done with it. And the app makers and the folks in this, the technology folks and the designers and the programmers, they design these apps for the instant stimulation, right? To release dopamine and to get that kind of instant gratification. And going back to the first answer, that's really hard for our teachers to compete with when, not every piece of work or every assignment you do in school isn't necessarily going to bring that instant gratification. And so really we see the screen time and the habits and the addiction of the screen time because of the growing influence and power of social media and artificial intelligence. So I think that's how I would approach that answer. It's all three of them, but I think for us, cart before the horse, we think that it's screen time because of these other factors within social media, scrolling, that constant entertainment and feedback, and of course the incredible world of artificial intelligence. And it's impossible to keep up with. And I guess, hence the name artificial intelligence, but it's so many opportunities with AI, but so many potential drawbacks as well. And again, it's really becoming incumbent upon schools to find some way to educate students on what the pitfalls are, but also how to harness it for improved quality of life and enhanced education.
Yeah, well said. My next question for you is, we often hear principals say that they feel pulled in many different directions when it comes to digital safety and engagement. How can parents better partner with school staff to support students around screen time and social media safety?
I think the best thing that our parents and guardians can do, well, hopefully your school or your district is focusing on and dedicated to bringing forward trainings, parent information nights, letters home, flyers, whatever it might be. Hopefully, your district is leading the charge and trying to bring some of those engagement opportunities forward. And so if the district is doing that, obviously the recommendation to parents and guardians is to please be an active participant in those particular avenues, because when schools spend the time and in some cases the money to bring forward experts from the field and host after school events, they're doing it really hoping to get an excellent outcome with a lot of parents and guardians in attendance to hear about what is going on. And for parents who feel like their school division or school may not be bringing some of these opportunities forward, I think it would be advocating to the leadership of those particular organizations to please bring information forward and opportunities to engage forward that focus on screen time, phone addiction, artificial intelligence, the dangers of human trafficking and sextortion and other things that are coming from some of these digital communication apps. And so, really to summarize, attend anything that the school is putting on and encourage your school to find as many opportunities to engage about these topics as possible.
Well said. Speaking of which, Parents, you know that we have weekly parent engagement events for free online nationwide. You can join from the convenience of your phone or app. One of the biggest questions that we get from our millions of viewers a year is, hey, Josh, what advice would you give a student to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger? Well, let's hear from a real student about how she might help a friend recognize these red flags.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all little details about what they do and who they are, and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start, if they feel a sense of being uncomfortable or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's a major red flag.
Parents, remember we have these free parent night events. You can come to the weekly live parent night events and replays. We have incredible giveaways. So each week, if you just attend one of our events, you're automatically entered for a chance to win a Kindle, a 3D printer, a Bluetooth speaker, and some other giveaways just for bringing your kids. And that's right. Yes, there's teen-led video lessons. A lot of parents will bring their kids to look over their shoulder, and the kids roll their eyes a lot less when they're learning from their peers. So we put their peers in the program nationwide. And there's a premium parent newsletter. Parents, the superintendent brought up some really good points. So I want to walk you through for free how you can learn. Smart Social has an army of parents nationwide doing research on the best TikTok app guides for parents, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox. This is a dangerous one, my friends, that a lot of parents don't know about. Netflix, WhatsApp, 450 more. And then as you go through, you're going to see this is anti-bullying month, October, every year. And we've got not only, oh no, I missed the October 7th anti-bullying month. Well, we have lots more all month long. Not only do we have them in English, but we have them in Espanol, in Mandarin, and 9 other languages, and replays you can watch. Now, the superintendent brought up some really interesting information, which I thought was very valuable. I clicked on the search box up at the top. What is the Devious Licks Challenge? Some of our audience goes, what would that be? Well, if you type in devious, if I can spell devious licks, you'll see that it's a bathroom vandalism challenge. So when we click on this, it's in the orange zone. It's a dangerous challenge. What does that mean? You click on it and it walks you through what this is in just a minute or two, a trusted video, and it walks you through what it is, what the news says about it, and everything else. It's essentially a bathroom. Schools across the country were experiencing new student behavior issues thanks to the dangerous social media challenge, Devious Licks. It was a vandalism challenge where kids would rip the soap dispensers out of the walls of public bathrooms in high schools and middle schools and think it's funny, and they would video it. And then they would also break the stalls and the toilets and really everything. They would try and break that. And it was nationwide. Some districts didn't get it. Some did. Another thing that the superintendent brings up that's so important is hiding apps from their parents. Let's type in the calculator. What is the calculator Vault apps? The private photo calculator app was really big a few years ago. And this is a creative way for kids to hide apps and photos and content from their parents. There's a lot of these. You'll see that Smart Social has updated. There's now hundreds of the apps that can hide it. So it really gives you an overview of how to look at your kids' phones and see what could be a little bit shady on their phones. The last thing I want to bring up here under the resources tab, this is a really big one. It is the Human Trafficking Safety Guide. This is really big. I've spoken as a keynote speaker at conferences. I didn't know how big it was until they asked me, Josh, will you fly here and speak on this? And they said, you're teaching a lot of the apps. Can you teach our law enforcement and community how the apps work so that we know where the dangers are at? So we have how predators groom, manipulate, and trap minors. This is 100% free. How they use social media to blackmail kids. That's called sextortion. It is more dangerous than you might think, parents. This will never happen to my kids. It's a huge deal. Happens to a lot of people. We tell you what the FBI says. This is a huge resource. So you can see what online enticement is, how to start a digital dialogue with teens and tweens. Absolute experts are contributing. What is sex trafficking? What can parents do? And so on. A lot in store there, but we do want you to come out. You'll also enter for a free chance to win some awesome prizes. Okay, that was pretty deep, Superintendent, but you brought up some great questions. Superintendent, some districts have said that they wish they had more time to focus on student safety and parent engagement. What area would you tell other districts is the most important part to focus on to support parents?
I don't believe that the education of the student can be separated from the student safety and the parent engagement. And in fact, I would argue if we aren't addressing matters of student safety, even if they aren't happening directly in the schools, and working to engage parents, then we aren't really going to have the opportunity to really educate the way we want to. I really think bringing awareness and all of the topics that you just brought forward are incredibly important. We recently had the Safe House Project come in to do a parent night specifically on the human trafficking. And those presenters talked a lot about the hidden apps and how predators groom and manipulate children. These resources exist. Many of them are free and inexpensive. And so when we're looking at supporting parents, it's really getting them the information that they otherwise wouldn't be getting. And if you have opportunities to bring something like a hidden in plain sight, where maybe you have a local sheriff's office or a police department that will come out and show where students might be hiding different items, whether it's a vape or whatever it might be, and kind of doing it right in plain sight in their bedroom. Anything you can do to raise awareness of some of the broader societal issues and some of the aspects in life that can really consume and entice a child to kind of step off kind of the path that you would hope that they that they would be walking on. Those are the areas really to support, and local law enforcement, local nonprofits to focus on education and awareness, mental health, etc. I think that's where districts should really prioritize their time, because the level and the skill of what some of these predators can do and some of these other nefarious individuals and what they're looking to do, it's terrifying. And I think those are really the areas that schools need to help bring that awareness and that education to the parents, because parents, I know as a parent of a high school and a middle school child, I was blown away by the things that I heard. And it improved my skill set, right? I added tools to my toolbox as far as things to look for, how to speak to my how to speak to my children, how to bring questions forward, how to do it in a way that isn't particularly threatening. We learned some of those tactics, and that is just really important for parents to know and to be equipped with that information.
Yeah, so well said. Okay, my next question for you is, district leaders tell us that parent engagement helps them get ahead of future student social media problems, much like what you just said, right? I love how you said they go kind of hand in hand with student safety and parent engagement aren't separate things. They help each other. What parent and student preventative education would you recommend to other school districts to get ahead of these problems before they happen on campus?
Absolutely. Anything focused on human trafficking and sextortion, number one, because that often starts from the cell phone or the device. Here in Virginia, we've spent, through our governor's office and through state legislators, a lot of time spent and a lot of focus spent on eliminating cell phones and banning cell phones and really monitoring screen time. John Haight's work on, the anxious generation, that preventative education is really important to get to understand how deep the connection is that some of these students have with the phones. And it's such an extension of them. It is impossible for them to break away from these devices. And so that preventative education on how to stay safe online, how to utilize artificial intelligence appropriately, what to look for as a parent, knowing what to look for on a student's device. Parents being equipped with information like, on an Apple device with, the screen time app, or the screen time ability, or I think they call it digital well-being on an Android device. I use Apple personally, but this can help monitor screen time. You can put, passwords and ask for permissions when when your child wants to download an app. All of those things can really help with the parents' skill set to oversee and be much more educated about how much technology is changing, because parents are focused on many other things, and they aren't, for the most part, that deep in that digital world to keep up with all the nuances and all the new challenges. So any preventative education that can raise awareness and put tools into parents' toolboxes for how to effectively oversee and guide their children with online safety and digital citizenship. Those are trainings and opportunities that will be paid back 100-fold over time.
Yeah, so well said. One of the biggest questions we get nationwide, parents, is every October is anti-bullying month, anti-bullying awareness month, and we really believe in having that dialogue. So I want to add this little tiny segment, parents. How can we reduce online bullying? One of the biggest questions we get in some of our evening events. Josh, my daughter's best friend might be cyberbullied. How or what can she do to best support her friend? Before we have the superintendent chime in here, let's hear from a real student on how she supported her friend during a bullying incident.
To me, cyberbullying looks like repeated instances of harassment and saying hurtful or derogatory things towards others, especially if it is a one-on-one connection with that person. Bullying can make the recipient feel alone, secluded, or as if the false things the bully is saying are true, even though that is often come from hurt feelings and personal bias. I have had a friend who had some bullying issues, specifically on the app Discord, someone that they thought they were friends with, but kept harassing them. Their approach was to block all notifications from that site and try and figure out a way around it to approach that person. And my response was essentially to just say, hey, I'm here. I understand if you don't want to talk to me through Discord, because that's how we talked, just so you don't have to deal with that. But I'm here. I have trusted adults if you don't, and to just work with her to get to an end solution.
All right, parents, we truly believe the number one safety app in the world is having a rich dialogue with your kids so they feel comfortable coming to you. I'm going to give you some dialogue starters, parents. You can throw these out the window or use them if you want, and they can be used on the car ride to school or on the car ride home from school or around the dinner table. You could possibly say, hey, I came across or saw some info about cyberbullying and how it can really hurt people. Have you ever seen or experienced something like that online? This might open them up just a little bit. If they roll their eyes, that's okay. We want to talk with them early and often about this so that they know they can come to you. If someone ever said something mean to you or others online, would you feel comfortable telling me about it? I want you to know I'm here to help, not judge. I've noticed that you seem more withdrawn lately and upset after you use your phone or computer. Would you like to talk about what's been happening online? Or I've heard stories about kids struggling with online behavior, both on the receiving end and sometimes participating in it. If you ever find yourself in a difficult situation, know that we can figure it out together. Superintendents, what advice do you have for parents to start that rich and important ongoing dialogue with their kids?
Well, I think these dialogue starters are amazing. As far as advice is to not be scared to address it. Your children, our children are looking for guidance, and they want banks on the river, and they want to know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And we have a massive responsibility to help them in that realm. It's just the vehicle and the venue through which now we have to help them has changed with technology. And I think trying to be proactive and doing it in a way that does not come across as punitive or judgmental. As you can see, these dialogue starters all come at it from, hey, I'm coming across this information, and double checking to make sure that you feel, hey, if there's ever something going on, please come and let me know. You kind of frame that you've heard particular stories, or maybe it's something you heard on the news, but just don't be afraid to broach the topic, and know that you need to broach it with your child, because the temptation to do other things online is so great. They need that reality check from their parents. They desperately need it. And so just don't be afraid to have the conversation, and know that just because you may not necessarily be as technologically savvy as your child does not put you at a disadvantage. The questions that you ask and the things that you notice about their behavior, or how they interact, or if they kind of pull away, or if they can't get away from the phone, those are red flags that they're falling into the technology trap. And so just don't be afraid to address it and to have the conversation up front.
So well said. Superintendent, you took a lot of time out of your very busy day to join us. Thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you very much for having me, Josh. It was a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. To all of our audience, remember, it's all about keeping your kiddos safe so they can someday be successful online. Parents, remember, whenever you're posting online, remember to try and keep it light, bright, and polite, because we're modeling the behavior that our kids see online and who they'll become in the future. I'm Josh Oakes, the founder of smartsocial.com. Excited to see you on the very next video. Have a great day, everyone. Take care. Thanks for spending time with the smartsocial.com podcast. If today's insights were useful, please share the episode with a fellow parent or educator and subscribe so you never miss our next conversation. And parents, make sure to join one of our next live online events each week to keep your family safe and also enter for a chance to win cool prizes. You can learn more at smartsocial.com. I'm your host, Josh Oakes, and parents, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite because your kids are watching what you're doing online. I'll see you on the next episode.